Are Christians to be liberals and see everyone in a single light? As a Christian, believing we all live in sin but we were all made in the image of God, are we compelled to prioritize equality over every other consideration? Can a Christian believe in a meritocracy? Are some of us better than others? The answer is yes. We are all equal in the eyes of God, but even God recognizes the fruitful from the unfruitful and rewards us based on our works. Our equality as sinners does not negate the difference between us as workers. A Christian can and indeed must advocate for meritocracy and can do so using Scripture. The Bible, despite what some liberals would have us believe, contains principles that align with meritocratic ideals, including rewarding effort, skill, and faithfulness. Merit is biblically linked with performance. But how do we as Christians measure performance? Below, we explore how meritocracy can be and ought to be linked to Scripture. Relevant verses are provided, and we will then address how a Christian might advocate for it while remaining faithful to biblical values. Meritocracy, the idea that rewards and advancement should be based on individual ability and effort, resonates with several biblical themes. The Bible tells us that faithfulness and diligence is rewarded. Hard work, stewardship, and faithfulness will lead to positive outcomes, according to Scripture. In support of this argument, we find the following verses. Proverbs 22 verse 29, Do you see a man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings, he will not stand before obscure men. This suggests that excellence and skill are rewarded with recognition and opportunity. Colossians 3 verses 23 to 24. Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. This connects diligent work to divine reward. These verses support the meritocratic idea that effort and competence should lead to advancement, as God values faithful stewardship. The Bible also encourages individuals to take responsibility for their actions and talents. Meritocracy's focus is on individual effort. In the parable of the talents, Matthew 25 verses 14 to 30, 3 servants are entrusted with resources based on their ability, and those who use them wisely are rewarded, while the unfaithful servant is rebuked. This illustrates that God expects us to use our gifts diligently, with rewards tied to effort. Galatians 6 verses 4 to 5, But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor. For each will have to bear his own load. This verse emphasizes personal accountability for one's contributions. A meritocracy seeks fairness by rewarding people based on merit rather than because of favoritism or status. Scripture supports impartiality. Leviticus 19 verse 15, You shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. This calls for fair judgment based on truth, akin to merit-based evaluation. James 2 verses 1 to 9. Warns against favoritism, urging believers to treat all people equitably, which can support a system where outcomes are tied to merit rather than privilege. The Bible teaches that abilities and opportunities come from God, but individuals are responsible for using them well. But what is more important is that God gives us what we need. Doing good is as much about making do with what you have, as it is about getting through the bad times. 1 Corinthians 4 verse 7. For who sees anything different in you? What do you have that you did not receive? If then you received it, why do you boast as if you did not receive it? This grounds merit in God's gifts, encouraging humility in success. Romans 12 verse 6, Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. This implies a merit-based expectation to exercise one's abilities faithfully. As a Christian, we view meritocracy as a system that reflects the biblical principles of diligence, fairness, and stewardship. Proverbs 22 verse 29 and Colossians 3 verses 23 to 24 argue that rewarding skill and hard work aligns with God's design for human effort. A merit-based system honors those who faithfully use their God-given talents. The parable of the talents shows us that God rewards those who steward their abilities well, and those who do little will have the little they have taken from them. Meritocracy counters favoritism and corruption. By rewarding people for what they do and failing to reward people for playing the victim, a just system is created in which outcomes reflect individual contributions rather than status or connections. A meritocracy ensures opportunities are based on ability, not privilege. Meritocracy must be tempered with biblical compassion to avoid harshness toward those with fewer opportunities. Matthew 25 verses 35 to 40 talks about caring for the least of us. Merit-based systems thinking must include consideration for the disadvantaged. Education is needed to help level the playing field. As Christians, we can support meritocracy and reward diligence, but also follow Christ's call to uplift the poor, ensuring everyone has a fair chance to succeed. All abilities come from God, 1 Corinthians 4 verse 7. Meritocracy ought not foster arrogance. Nor must meritocracy create a hyper-individualism. In a period of transition, we can support policies like merit-based hiring, scholarships for achievement, and transparent promotion systems, while also pushing for equitable access to education and resources. Society needs job training programs to help people develop skills, aligning with the parable of the talents. Some may argue that Christianity's emphasis on grace, Ephesians 2 verses 8 to 9, conflicts with meritocracy. We do not need to dispute that salvation is by grace, but it is also true that there is rewards for those who perform earthly work, 2 Timothy 2 verse 6. Others will argue that meritocracies tend to ignore systemic disadvantages. However, the idea behind meritocracy is not to pull others down but to lift others up. We ought not punish some for things they did not do. Meritocracy reflects the biblical call to diligence, Proverbs 22 verse 29, fairness, Leviticus 19 verse 15, and faithful stewardship, Matthew 25. 14 to 30. By rewarding effort and skill, we honor God's gifts, but we must also ensure justice and compassion is part of the system, so all can thrive, as Christ calls us to serve the least among us, Matthew 25 verse 40. What is missing from most discussions on meritocracy is the value of thinking right. Merit flows from right thinking. Christianity promotes the idea that all sin begins in the mind. The good we do is defeated by wrong intentions. A meritocracy based solely on power, or the accumulation of property rewards the wrong sort of behavior. The problem is that if we tempt people using material goods, we will cause them to focus on ways of obtaining these kinds of things. If our minds are filled with images of fancy cars and extravagant lifestyles, then merit will be considered what enables one to acquire this type of life. Under capitalism, the frugal life is not a sign that one has merit. Which begs the question as to what defines merit, or what gives us or our activity merit. Merit can only be put on value or the generation of value. If we destroy value, we cannot be said to be acquiring value. Merit is the production of benefit, and there cannot be benefit in the loss of benefits. Merit has to be affixed to something, and that requires the addition of value. So merit is the measure of value. One has merit when one has value. This poses a problem for the world, because how does one have value in a system of oppression? If a lord rules you and has dominion over you, your value and the value of what you do is determined by him. This is idolatry. Idolatry is when someone or something defines your value. Capitalism and communism both are idolatrous in that the boss and the tyrant both define your value. Your value, in these systems, is defined by your value to the company or to the state. But your merit is not identical to the wages you are paid. The boss and the bureaucrat destroy your value as much or more than they define it. We may decry the idea of people defining themselves by the job they do, saying I am a bricklayer or shipper, but it is in our work that we acquire value. It is just that our work has been usurped by bad actors. Our work can define us, but not when done by someone who defines us for their own ends and purposes. Ultimately, we need to be given merit within the context of culture. But what is culture? Culture is a term that encompasses the essence of what it means to be human. Culture contains or is composed of beliefs, practices, values, traditions, and expressions. These shape the identity of individuals and communities. Often described as the way of life of a group of people, culture provides a lens through which we understand the world and our place within it. Culture can best be defined as the collective manifestation of human intellectual achievement, creativity, and social behavior. It is both tangible and intangible, encompassing everything from language, art, and architecture to customs, rituals, and moral codes. Culture is not static, it evolves, influenced by history, geography, technology, and interaction between different societies. A more formal definition of culture might describe it as the shared patterns of behaviors and interactions, cognitive constructs, and effective understanding that are learned through socialization. This definition highlights a key aspect of culture: it is learned, not inherited biologically. Culture is passed from one generation to the next, forming the foundation of societal continuity and change. A culture is composed of physical artifacts, such as buildings, tools, artworks, clothing, and technology. Material culture provides tangible evidence of the intellectual and creative capacity of a society. Culture also contains less tangible elements, such as our beliefs, values, norms, language, and customs. Non-material culture shapes the way people think, behave, and interact with one another. Language is a cornerstone of culture, serving as a medium for communication and a repository of collective knowledge. It reflects the worldview of a community and allows for the transmission of cultural heritage. Traditions and rituals can range from religious ceremonies to everyday customs, such as greetings or meal preparation, and often embody the values of a culture. Culture includes systems of governance, education, family structures, and religious organizations that both shape societal norms and regulate behavior. Art, music, literature, and other forms of creative expression are reflections of cultural identity. They provide insight into the emotions, ideas, and experiences of a society. Culture is inherently diverse. No two cultures are exactly alike, and within any given culture, there can exist subcultures that reflect variations in geography, ethnicity, religion, or social class. Culture is expressed in its symbols, such as flags, religious icons, or linguistic metaphors. These often only have meaning within a cultural context. What has merit builds culture, and what has real value builds the culture of Christianity. There is a right way to live and an infinite number of wrong ways. The right way creates value, and in this creation of value, the right way produces true culture. This is grounded in Scripture. Culture itself does not have value unless it creates value, and it creates value only when it aligns with Christianity. Christianity is the world's only valid culture and therefore, the only true meritocracy.